Hi. So I'm going to talk about the pacemaker defibrillator. Now, as team leader, it's very important that you know how to use your hospital's pacemaker and defibrillator. It's a device that's life-saving, but a lot of people actually don't know how to use it, and you'll be surprised in a crisis how people will even have even less familiarity with it. So it's important that you know how to use it. This one I'm going to go over. Obviously, yours are different, but there's a lot of similar features with all pacemakers and defibrillators. Now, let's briefly talk about what it can do. All defibrillator pacemakers, unless it's an AED, can give you a rhythm, so it's a good monitor. If you ever are lacking an ECG, you can always use your crash cart monitor. In addition, it allows you to defibrillate and pace. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on to monitor, and takes a second, fires up. And important things to note, almost all defibrillators, when they're not connected, give you dotted lines for disconnect. That is not the same as asystole. So asystole is a solid line. A disconnect is a dotted line. That's very common. Other things to know about this is that the leads often default to lead 2. So this defaults to lead 2. If you want to change your lead, all you have to do is hit the lead button, and you can toggle between the different leads. Now, if you're using it in a code setting, you're going to use what's called the quick combo pads. So these are the pads that are placed either anterior, posterior, or on the upper right sternal border or in left chest wall for defibrillation and pacing. The idea is you want to get the energy delivered across the ventricle. So it's either like this or like this. They're peel pads and they stick on. These are preferred over the paddles. So these are pads, these are paddles. These are preferred because they're on. You can continuously monitor the rhythm with them, you can shock through them, you can pace through them, and there's no delay in CPR when you have to go in and off the chest, which you'd have to do with the paddles. But sometimes if these fail, you can use the paddles. Now, this machine has the ability to switch back and forth. So these come in a box, and then you connect them to the therapy cable, which then connects to the defibrillator. If you're going to use the paddles, you have to put this in here like this. It slides in, and now you're able to use the paddles. Now, once again, these are not the preferred. You're preferred to use the pads, not the paddles. One interesting thing to note about these are, if you want to downsize these for a pediatric patient, all you have to do is pull it off, and you notice they're smaller. And most of these paddles are able to be downsized in this way. Once again, check with your own manufacturer to know for sure. So once again, let's go over the preferred way. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to put it back in. So now I'm able to connect these. I'm then going to go to the defibrillator.
Check pads.
Now obviously it's not connected to the patient, so I was saying check pads. If these were connected, it would give a better contact. And then you're going to select the energy. So by going up or down, depending on what it's set, it's right now defaulting to 120 joules. Then I will charge it, and when it's fully charged, then I'm going to clear the team, and you're going to defibrillate here. Now you'll notice there's an analyze button here. This does have an AED feature in it, but once again, current guidelines say you should not use the analyze button unless you are absolutely uncertain or feel uncomfortable. As a code leader, you should know whether or not it's a shock or rhythm. Using the analyze button takes time, breaks in CPR, which are detrimental to the patient. So reviewing, you turn it to defib, you select your energy, you charge. Once it's fully charged, then you clear the team, you defibrillate, and have the people go back immediately back to the compressions. Now, that's the defibrillator. Let's switch now to the pacer. So I'm going to make a counterclockwise all the way to pacer. Now that I'm on pacer, it's activating. If you notice the way they have this set, it's color schemed, right? So the green affects the green buttons, the red affects the red buttons. Now I'm on pacer. And all pacers, transcutaneous pacers, have two important switches. You have the pacer output in milliamps and the heart rate. Now the heart rate is just what you set, but if you don't set the output high enough, it doesn't matter what the rate is. So common pitfalls, either the rate is set to 0, so no matter how much you go up in the amplitude, you don't get capture, or more commonly, the rate is set to a certain beats per minute, but you never go up on the amplitude, so you never get the energy going out. It doesn't matter what the rate's set. So you have to remember it's a double hit. You want to set the rate and set the output. In an unstable patient, you want to go all the way up to maximum output and then go back down. And you just increase here. You notice the amplitudes. It's unhappy because it's not connected to the patient, so it's alarming. So now I'm going back to 0. Now, one other thing to note about the pacer, just turn it off so it won't squawk at us. The other important thing about the pacer is if you don't hook up the secondary ECG, so all pacer defibrillators have ECG cables. If you don't hook these up, then you're not going to be able to see what the rhythm is, because these pads can either send or receive. They can't do both. So when the pacer is active, the energy is going out, it can't interpret what the rhythm is. So you need to put these on to be able to see what you're getting, if you're getting capture. And then secondary, without these on, this pacer is a VOO, meaning it's just going to pace no matter what. If you hook these in, then it can actually inhibit. And that's important because if the patient has a competing rhythm, if you don't have the inhibition ability, you can have an RRNT and cause a ventricular dysrhythmia. So the setup for a pacer are on to pacer, leads on, pads on, set the rate, increase the milliamps until you get capture. And how you'll know you have capture is that you'll see a pacer spike and then a wide deflected QRS. Now that's an electronic capture. Now you need to confirm mechanical capture by checking the pulse. Just because you have pacer spikes with capture doesn't mean you're actually getting cardiac output. You actually need to feel for a pulse. So those are the importance about the pacer, the defibrillator, and the ECG monitor. One last thing on the defibrillator is that there is the ability to sync or not sync, and the ability to sync on this defibrillator is, let me go back to here, and it's here, sync on or off. So if you're going to do a cardioversion, not a defibrillation, but a cardioversion, you would put the sync on here. So that's important to remember. And almost all defibrillators, after your first shock that you're on sync, it goes to desynced after, meaning the sync goes off. So you always have to resync it for each synced cardioversion. So that's a brief down and dirty on this defibrillator pacemaker. Once again, learn your own. I assure you, people aren't familiar with this technology, even though they should. So as team leader, it's your responsibility to know how to use it.